Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Hey, 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 hey. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Hello, and welcome to the next episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies with special guest Tim Davis. This is the podcast where all three of us saw a movie at our local Regal Cinema, local Regal Cinema Theater. And now we're going to talk about it in the parking lot in Matt's Honda Pilot. We're going to talk about such things as, should you see this movie? Should you not see this movie? Should you wait for streaming? Is it a theater must? Should you bring snacks? Should you hold off on the snacks because maybe it's not a good idea? We're going to try to cover a lot of these topics, but at the end of the day, we don't make any guarantees. We're here for fun, and we're here for you, the listeners. I am Todd Dover.
And I'm Matt Malloy, and yes, Tim is with us again. Welcome back, Tim.
Glad to be here.
And we are here to talk about a movie. This movie is called Knock at the Cabin Door. And that is a good tie-in song that you did, Todd.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
For
Thank
that.
you.
Good work.
Sometimes things just align.
Yeah.
I had no song when I pushed record, and it just got funneled into my brain, down into my mouth hole.
Wow. That's good. It's good stuff. So, who's in this movie? Well, I guess Dave Bautista is the big time star.
And a big guy.
And a big guy. We have Rupert Grint is in this movie, a.k.a. Ron Weasley.
Yes.
And there's two dad characters, and one of them is like somebody from Frozen.
Yes, he's Kristoff.
Kristoff.
Jonathan Groff.
Yes.
Then
He was Kristoff. He was in Glee. He was in the new Matrix movie.
He's one of those you recognize him type.
Yeah. And I think that's about it for. We have a very small cast, so there's not a lot of.
Well, M. Night Shyamalan's in the movie.
Well, that's true.
We should mention he directed it as well.
He directed.
But he co-wrote with plenty of people.
Yes.
Which I don't know if that's typical for him.
I think he at least has a hand in it usually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, typically, I think these are movies that he's written and directed.
Yes.
But I don't know if he typically has
Sure.
other people write with him.
That's fair.
I don't know that either, Todd.
Some
That's
listeners
a
going
good
to have to look into it and get back to us.
Yes.
We believe in you.
Shyamalanpedia is a little lack.
Right. All right. So that's the cast. We've got a small cast. We've basically got a cabin setting with a few people in it, and the only other people in the movie are in flashbacks or news reports, basically. So what is this movie about? Well, we have two dads and a daughter who are having some time at a cabin.
Andrew, Eric, and Wynn.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Daddy Eric.
Andrew and Daddy Eric. Yeah.
Yes. So they're there, and then these four people come on the scene and make their presence known, and they want to come in the house, and they've got like these weird weapon tool looking things that aren't like any tools that you've ever seen. They look like a mixture of different tools but also weapons. Like they're all pretty deadly looking, and so they want to come to the house, and Daddy Eric and Daddy Andrew are like, heck no, no one's coming in. And anyway, they end up breaking in. And so the setup for this movie is these four people believe that they are sent there to stop the apocalypse. But the way that has to happen is one of the three members of the family, the daddies and Wen, has to get killed by one of the other members of the family to stop the apocalypse, right? Which, is hard to believe, and you spend the entire movie as the audience wondering what's true and what's not true. That's basically what the movie is about, is determining whether this is a real thing or not. And as we go through the movie, basically there are choices that the four people ask the family if they're willing to make this sacrifice. And if the family says no, then one of the 4 people is killed and something horrible happens on Earth. Maybe. Not sure. I'm not going to reveal whether it's really happening or not, because I think that's
Crux of
The point of the movie.
the point of the movie. The point of the movie is this real? Is this not real? How what's going on? Who are these people? And I, in typical M. Night Shyamalan style, the twist is the thing. There's not a huge twist in this, but I think there is enough that I shouldn't say more about the events of what happens in this cabin.
I agree with what you're saying. I think by the time you reach the climax of the film, there is only one way to interpret what is happening,
Yeah.
but it's not our place to say what that is.
Right. So, that's where I'm going to leave it for a summary of the events. And Todd, I'll now ask you, what is your gut reaction to Knock at the Cabin?
Well, gut reaction is I thought this was a fine movie. Like, I have some complaints, and it's going to be hard to talk about those complaints because they're so wrapped up in the story and the plot and where things go, and different ideas on how I think it would have been like better and like maybe more intense of a movie. But that being said, I mean, I think when we all started to see the trailers of this movie, we were all kind of like, but the trailers won me over as a movie that I wanted to see. I was like, you know what, enough of in this trailer to make me want to go see it now. I'm not like the general public where I don't feel like I've been burned so many times by old M. Night, but there's a consensus about him nowadays. So I guess that was, there's a little bit of fear that it was going to end up like The Happening or something. But I think this is a pretty good movie, and I think what makes it kind of, I don't know if I should use the term refreshing, or what makes it a different kind of Shyamalan movie is that like I said a couple minutes ago, like by the time you get to the climax of everything, there's only really one way you can think about what's happening. And so I would almost argue that the refreshing thing of this movie is that there really is no big twist. I don't feel like there's kind of twists through the movie and stuff like that, but it's not like the plants were releasing a pheromone that made people kill each other, kill themselves or something. Yeah, there's not like.
It's more like a reveal than it is a twist.
It's not your typical Shyamalan like
break the world
gut reaction at the end, and you're like, oh,
yeah, they're dead.
Yes.
Yes.
So like, if that's the kind of movie that you want from M. Night, this is probably not for you then. Like, I mean, it's still a good movie.
Well, it's still very much a Shyamalan.
It is too. There's like a lot in the dialogue. There's a lot in how the movie is shot, which are honestly for me there was ups and downs for that. Yeah. Like, I've seen a close up of Dave Bautista's face way too many times tonight. It's gonna haunt my dreams probably. And working into like some of the things that I thought were pretty rough is that he really focused on close-ups for this entire movie. And, I could see that for some scenes, like, because you're really trying to you're trying to get across the humanity of this movie, even though it's kind of up in the clouds with this premise. So you have these characters, you learn more about the characters, the characters even grow a little bit through the movie. And so, all this kind of stuff needs to be conveyed. But my gosh, there's so many close-ups and so many shots that were not centered that just felt weird at times. Like I just was kind of confused. Where like instead of showing a conversation between two people, there would be like one person who's like not even center frame. They'd be like to the right, looking off camera and having a full-fledged conversation with someone else. And there's no interaction back and forth. There's no turning of the camera. It's just kind of there. I mean, those are typical things that he does that I've just always been kind of confused about as a filmmaker, why you would do that. Like, I don't feel like it adds anything when I watch these movies, but And I mean, like, I wouldn't say the pacing was like bad, but there were certain times where I was like, I don't even know how long this movie was, but I felt like it could be a tiny bit shorter. So I think we probably topped out at like, let's see, if the movie was at 7:40 and we walked out at
9:40ish. So
yeah, so we're probably
under
talking
two.
about an hour and 40-minute movie. But in general, I enjoyed my time. I was pretty captivated by the movie through most of it. Sure, I had these things that I didn't like about it, but overall, it's probably going to get a decent rating from me. And I think the performances were pretty solid in this movie. There was only like, I think the two ladies in this movie at times, like especially the white lady, the black haired lady, I kind of felt some of her scenes were a little like, I was like, missed a little bit, but then there would be other scenes where I was like, hit. But the constant to this movie is Dave Bautista, and I don't think Dave is a phenomenal actor by any stretch of the imagination, but I think he did pretty good in this one. I mean, he controls the narrative for the entire movie. He is what moves the movie forward. I mean, he is basically it for this movie. I mean, everything revolves around him as soon as he steps on the scene. And, he played his character really well. And, I mean, we'll see what my rating's going to be. I have a little bit more time to think about it. But, yeah, I mean, this is a fine movie. I think if this is a movie you would see in general, sure, see it in the theater. I don't think anything is like, you have to see this movie in the theater. You're going to lose an experience if you don't. I mean, I would say see it in theaters because support your theater because they're still not fully recovered from the last couple of years, especially ours and our Regal. Hopefully they stay around. But yeah, I mean, this is a movie you can save for streaming. I don't think anything screams you have to see this in the theater unless you're a theater goer like we are, or you're just trying to support theaters. So I think that's where we're going to end it because I could keep trailing on forever. But with each sentence, I'm scared I'm going to say something that's going to ruin something. So I'm just going to quit while I'm somewhat of ahead here. So, Tim, what do you think about this M. Night Shyamalan ditty?
Yeah, so coming into this, I think I had the reservations that, anybody has at this point with Shyamalan, who's been more missed than hit lately. But I will say, like you said, the trailer for this one pulled me in. And that hasn't happened for him lately. I remember, I want to say about 5 years ago, there was a trailer for some movie for his, before another movie. And when his name went on the screen, an audible groan in the theater. Because that's how much his name was mud at that point.
Right.
But for this trailer, I did go, that actually might be interesting. And thankfully, I think it was. And I actually think that his style made this movie better. Because his, like you said, the close-ups and the odd angles and it just, to me, it elevated the tension and kind of added a claustrophobia to it all. That, like, you were just as unsure and intense the whole time as the family was, because you're just not sure what's going on, and to be that intimately close to all the characters that you're not sure about, just I think added to the you're just on the edge of your seat watching, and you are captivated is a great word, because you're just like, you want to find out what's next, what's really happening, and you get hints just like the family does, and you're just trying to figure out what is going on here. Are these just lunatics? Are they here for a purpose? Are they, and like you said, going back to the acting, the choices were really interesting. Like, there was an intensity, but there was also almost a calmness in the way that Bautista played his character. And it was, I think, harder to pull off than just a ranting, raving, like, type that he could have been. And instead, he was, he's this big mountain of a man with a big presence, and yet he was trying to be calm and lead his, I guess you could say, followers to do this mission that he was hell-bent on. And he was calm pretty much the whole time. Even as things started to spiral a little bit, he would try and stay at this even keel level, even though he could, like, snap somebody in a twig if he wanted to. But that's not at all what his character was. And it was almost like he was reluctant but driven. Mm-hmm. And I just think that added so much to his character. Instead of being a villain per se, or just, he was just, I don't know, and it helped the tension of everything else, because when his other characters around him would start to wobble in their, I guess, faith or belief in what they were doing, he was the rock for them, and even if it wasn't smooth. And I don't know, it just, the whole thing just had this great tension, and tension in movies is hard to pull off without like breaking it. And I thought this movie stayed tense the entire time, even with some beats that stayed a little longer than they probably should have. But it just, the little character flashbacks helped flesh things out. The little nuggets you got from the husbands, it all worked for me. So I like this quite a bit more than I thought I would. And I do also recommend it. I do agree it's not a theater must, although I think the sound design and music plays well in a big theater. It's so hard to get that at home TVs these days. But again, it's still not a must, I agree. But it is worth checking out, and it's very interesting for this kind of movie. Because like you said, the twist is almost that there isn't a big twist, if you want to say it that way.
Yeah.
But yet it still makes you think afterwards, which is what he usually aims for. And I think he did a good job with that this time. Matt?
Well, I think I have similar feelings to you guys. I enjoyed the movie, and again, I was also heavily influenced by the trailer. It was one of those things where I thought they might have given too much away in the trailer.
Yeah, me too. I was worried about that too.
And then I was I was surprised in the movie because I felt that way a little bit, but then I was like, this is going right along like I sort of already know what's going to happen based on seeing the trailer so many times, just because we go to the movies a lot. But then I felt like that didn't bother me too much.
Right.
I was like, well, that doesn't matter.
Well, it's like that's okay.
Yeah.
We're on this ride.
It's okay. We're on the ride. And it didn't really give away the parts that it shouldn't have, which is a big plus, because I think there's a lot of trailers that's a complaint for us that, well, you gave it away.
Well, yeah, because we see them so many times that we can be super analytical of them. Like,
right.
When they're when we see them.
Yeah. This captured the mood of the movie without ruining it.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, besides trailers on TV, I would say for this specific movie, we've probably seen this trailer 6-7 times in theaters, if not more.
This podcast isn't about movies anymore. It's about trailers.
It's got reaction.
Yes.
So here are the 6 trailers we saw today.
Yeah, right.
There probably is a podcast for that.
I'm sure there is.
So yeah, I think Tim, you said it well. This movie does a great job with tension. You have the tension of like a family being held captive in a cabin. You have the tension of like these 4 people who have this belief in what they think is going to happen and what they need other people to do. And you know, you've got the interaction and the interplay between those. And yeah, this movie, I was surprised at how quickly we jumped right into.
Yes, that too. Did not waste time.
Into, we've got a hostage situation here. It's probably within the first 10 minutes of the movie that you've got people breaking down doors and tying people up and things like that going on. So, you know, jumped right in and kept that tension throughout. I think that's definitely a highlight. Things I didn't like about the movie, I thought there was several CGI effects, and I thought that they were bad, like not just below average, but actually bad.
No, that's a shame on Hallmark as well.
Yeah, and I like. I know I don't want to reveal what I saw, but you know, if you're looking at some kind of, well, I'll just leave it at that and just say
it could have been better.
There's CGI was not great. But one thing that you mentioned, well, you both mentioned Dave Bautista's performance, and I think that we've said in a past podcast, Dave Bautista can't handle being the leading man in the movie.
I think
And I have to give him credit that he did a good job in this movie. Being
Sure.
very good.
kind
Absolutely.
of the main character.
I mean, whatever movie we're talking about, I feel like that was true. I don't even know what movie it
Yes.
is, but before this performance, I'd agree
Yes.
with anything you said.
Right.
And
right.
I mean, I'm giving credit where credit's due, but it still wasn't like knock my socks off, best thing I've ever seen.
Right.
I think, but for him, I thought it was definitely. I could see why he wanted to make this movie. 'Cause
Yes.
you read this script and go, okay, I can do this. And it's
Well,
different.
it's nice to see a movie where he tries. Like,
Yeah.
because I don't think he's tried
right.
in a lot of them.
Yeah,
like,
no,
he just
yeah.
relies on being Dave Bautista.
Yeah, no, this was
This
a movie
movie,
where,
it felt like he put in the work, he did what he was supposed to do,
right,
and the effort paid off.
right, and I think they had fun selling the movie on. Here's big Dave Bautista but then the role plays out and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Right.
Yeah, so
Yeah. So agree. Good job, Dave Bautista, and you carried this movie, and you did well, at least for Dave Bautista. You're not Harrison Ford yet, but
yeah,
you know.
We'll see how the Guardians go, because
Yeah.
so far I have not liked most of what I've seen in those movies.
Fair enough. So yeah, I thought this movie was pretty good. I'd recommend seeing it, and I don't think you need to go to the theater to see it, but pretty good.
Unless you feel like going to the Regal Cinema in Columbia to support our local theater so it doesn't go away.
survive the cuts.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Fair enough. Well, how many grasshoppers would you give this movie?
Good one.
Weird pull from the movie, but
No, that's
if you
a good
see
pull.
the movie, you'll understand. 5 being the best, because then you got a party of grasshoppers. 0 being the worst, because then you got none, and you don't even get the sweet, sweet sounds. Do grasshoppers make weird sounds, like crickets or anything like
Very
that?
soft.
I think they do.
Okay. You don't get the smoothing sounds that could put you to sleep at night. So, Matt, start us off.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with 3.2 grasshoppers out of 5. So a pretty good rating. Not the best, but I certainly felt I was pleasantly surprised by this movie. I'll put it that way,
Sure.
and I thought it was pretty good. So
Tim?
That's funny. I'm right about in your zone there. I was thinking 3.3.
okay,
Nice.
yeah.
Mr.
Well, I'm not too far off from you guys. I'm a little bit lower, but that's okay. I'm at a 2.9. I think, no one's going to hear on the podcast, but I have a couple ideas of what would have made it a little bit better. Not that I'm a filmmaker, but I see a lot of films, so I know a thing or two. But yeah, I mean, pleasantly surprised, absolutely all around. Yeah, I mean, honestly, because what was the last one he did was it like the beach or whatever?
Yeah, old.
Old.
Yeah.
And I heard that one
I have not
got a
seen
lot
that
of
one,
grufflings. Yeah, I haven't seen
But I heard
but
it was
read
it was
about
also better than his other. Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe we're in the beginning of a resurgence
Renaissance?
of old M Night. Does anybody know what M stands for in the M Night?
Nope. I could probably look it up. But no.
That's all
I
right.
think it stands for Mikey.
That's something
Mikey
simple.
Night
Yes.
Shyamalan. So yeah, I'm at a 2. What did I say? 2.9.
2.9. You said.
2.9 grasshoppers.
A well earned 2.9. I'll give
Yeah.
credit where I
Yeah,
thought there where it's due.
Okay. All right. Well, any last minute thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, I think we're good. Good for Shyamalan for kind of breaking out of his rut there.
Yeah, I mean this is probably the most unlike Shyamalan
Yes.
movie from Shyamalan, so maybe
Yeah.
that's why we all dug it.
Yeah.
Hard to tell.
We defied all of our expectations.
Well, then that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, where we watched Knock at the Cabin. by M. Night Shyamalan, an M. Night Shyamalan film, directed and written by M. Night Shyamalan, and produced by M. Night Shyamalan,
And starring.
Yeah.
starring,
Featuring.
Featuring.
Yeah, so we gave this movie an overall rating of 3.1 and a third of a tenth of a point. So you got a lot of threes repeating at the end of 3.1.
Yep.
And that's a good rating. So, we say check this one out. We were all, I think, perhaps pleasantly surprised is the mood of the car tonight. So, yeah. Thank you all listeners and subscribers, and we will see you next time.
Da 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 da
Da da
da da da.
da da da.